Hello friends, welcome to my YouTube channel. So in this video we are going to see how we can create this CRUD operations in .NET 6 Blazor server using Web API. So let's begin with our project. So here I am creating a new project. So in this tutorial we are going to make use of this Blazor server app, class library and ASP.NET Core Web API. So let's first create this Blazor server app. Click on next. Let the name be Blazor app 1. Click next and then click create. So once this is done, after this we are going to add two more projects to the same solution. So here it is. So here we are having this Blazor app 1. Now to this same solution, I'm going to add the Web API part, add new project, ASP.NET Core Web API. I'm going to name it as Demo API and click on create. So this will create the default API structure for us. After this, we're going to add one new project for class library, and with this we are going to name as Demo Models. Click on next, and one more which will be actually our business logic, and that also will be a class library, so that we're going to name as business logic. Fine. So here we'll simply remove this class 1, and from this demo models also we'll remove the class 1, and from this API we have this controller weather forecast. We'll just remove it off, and this weather forecast.cs, and from this program all looks fine. So we have like removed whatever default we have got. Here also we can remove this data, and here we can comment it off this one like we always do. Whatever we have got, we have just removed it off. Now we have created these four solutions over here. Now in this demo API we are going to add a controller, add new controller, API empty controller, and once that is done we'll simply name it as employee controller. Fine, we have the controller here, an empty controller. Once this is done, in this business logic we are going to add a class and name it as employee service. Let's make it as public, and we're going to add a new class or interface, we can say interface, and that interface we're going to name as I employee service. Let's make it as public, and this I interface will be inherited here. So this I employee service inheriting this I employee service. Fine. So here also we are done. Now coming to the models. In this model we are going to add 3 NuGet packages. This is actually a database first approach. So we're going to add the 3 NuGet packages, and that will be Microsoft, this core, EntityFramework core, install, After this it will be tools, install, accept, and after this one more will be SQL Server. So actually these three NuGet packages are required for database first approach. So we have this Microsoft Entity Framework Core SQL Server. Version is 6 and accept. So here we have it in our models. In this demo models, we are going to create two folders. One will be models folder and other one will be custom models. Fine. Let's build the solution and see if there is an error. Okay, we have got some error. Let's click on it. Okay. In this Blazor app 1, we have this page fetch data. So we can remove it off because it's using some services which we already deleted. Fine. Let's clean the solution. Clean succeed. Let's build it once. Build succeed. Fine. Let's close all tabs. Fine. Now here if you see what we'll be doing is we'll be using this index page only. On the index page itself we are going to create our CRUD operations. So we'll remove all this and we'll add the code part. Fine. So this is our index page where we are going to add the employee information. So before doing that, in my database I have created this employee DB, and in this DB we are going to create a simple table, very simple table, name, company and years of experience. Here we can have some different data types, but here I'm selecting nvarchar 200 for this demo purpose. So I have this employee info table as part of this employee DB. So here in this table, if I execute this script, I'll get the table. And here if you see, I have already executed it in my local SQL server. Table is expanding. So here I have the employee info. So simple table. Now we have to set this demo model as the startup project. And in this package manager console, we have to execute one script, a simple DBA schema update script, which will generate our uh, data models in this models folder. Fine. So let's get that script. So here I have opened the script in my notepad. Scaffold DB context, server name. Server will be the SQL Server ID or whatever login you have. Then the database name, then trusted connection true. Then we have to specify the NuGet package name, Microsoft Entity Framework Core SQL Server, and the output directory will be models here. Fine. So this script we have to simply copy and execute in our package manager console with demo models as the startup project. So let's do that. So build succeed over here. Fine. So once the build is succeeded, inside this demo model, we'll get the DB context and the one model which is employee info. So it's taking time. Okay, finally it got executed. So here if you see in this on configuring, we are getting this warning. So we can comment off the warning. Also we are getting this connection string here. So we can comment it off because we are going to use it in our API, and in the API we can simply add it in the app settings connection string. So here we are going to add the connection string. Let's do that. So here just above this logging, we can add this connection strings. DB connection is the name of the key, and I have the details. Database will be employee DB. Fine. So this employee, this is the connection string which we are going to use. Fine. Now inside this employee controller, uh, we have this employee controller. So here we are going to write the methods to get the data. Before doing that, let's create the structure to add the data and service required to pull the data from the API. So let's add one services folder in our Blazor app. Add new folder, services, and let's name this service as emp service. And let's create the required interface as well. Let's implement the interface. Fine. Now this emp service we are going to inject in our programs here. So let's do that. So here I have added in the builder services add singleton. You simply inherit the required namespace. Okay, so I have this Blazor app services folder. Fine, this is done. Now on this pages section index.h Blazor, we are going to create the required form. So before doing that, what we can do is like we need some models which to be used. So we'll have to create some custom models. So inside this model, if you see this employee info, here I'm having this name company. So we'll create an exact copy of this for our and we'll name it as employee. We'll simply name it as employee.cs and let's paste it here. Employee public class. Fine. So we have this employee and here we are going to create this required structure for adding the employee first. So we'll first add the employee, then we'll get the employees and display in the grid. So let's create that. So here we are creating an edit form, simple edit form with the model being the employee. Fine. So this model we are going to define it here in our code section. Private employee new. Fine. And this employee we are going to inherit from. I'm going to add the namespace here. Using demo models dot custom models dot. So we are going to in this Blazor app 1 we are going to add a reference, add a project reference, and we are going to include this demo models. So we have this demo models dot custom models. So we have this namespace over here, demo models dot custom models. So that namespace we are going to get here in this index eraser. So here we have it, and this employee reference is resolved. So this employee refers to demo models dot custom models dot employee. Now inside this edit form, we are going to have a table and some table row and few TD. So we'll apply some class, bootstrap class. Fine. Now inside this table row, we are going to add few table datas which will accept the text box information and simply add it to the grid. So here I have added in three table data. So here if you see this employee, we have name, company, years of experience. So let's add that. Let's add one more table data. So we have four table data now. First will be employee dot name, then company, then we have years of experience. Then inside this button, we are going to add new employee. So we have created a very simple table structure, and we need this add new employee method now. So let's create that. Public, very simple method, and we're going to inject the service IMP service, and for that we're going to using Blazor app 1 dot services folder. We are going to refer here. So this emp service we are going to use inside this method to call the method. Now inside this emp service method, employee service, we're going to add the HTTP required classes and HTTP reference to actually call the API. So let's do that and let's complete that entire flow. So here I have created a reference of this created an object of HTTP client, and that we have injected in the constructor of that. Now here we are going to get some methods to get the data, save the data. So let's do that. So here the simple method get employee. So we are referring this demo models, custom models, and we are simply getting the get employees, calling the API employee controller get employees. Then we have now we have to create a post method to save the employee or add a new employee. So let's do that. So here in this Blazor app, we have created this add new employee. We are posting it using this HTTP client, and we are calling this method. Now once the employee is added successfully, we need the response back. So for that, we have to create one class in these custom models, and that will name it as response model. So add a new class. And response model.cs. So inside this response model, we are going to add two properties, status and message. So here we can see in this emp service, we have this get employees and add new employee. So let's add a method to delete employee. So here I have simple method delete employee. I'm passing the employee ID and calling this API employee delete employee ID. Okay, so let's add these methods in the IEmp service. Okay, so we have this get employee, add employee, and delete employee. Three operations we are doing for CRUD operations. And let's do a method for update employee as well. So in this emp service, we are going to do add a method for update employee. Update employee. So it's pretty much the same method for add. We are simply going to update based on the ID. So add employee, update employee, delete employee. So we have all these four methods at the Blazor server app level. Now we are going to add the same in the API. So let's do that. So before adding into the employee controller, we'll have to add it in the business logic. So let's add that in the employee service first. So here we can simply create the context object. So here we are referring the context as employee DB context. So here in this employee business logic service, we can create this DB context. And for that, we have to simply add reference to demo models. So the reference is added. Now we have to inject it, this DB context, inside our constructor of this employee service. So we have created this object inside the constructor. Now we need to create four methods to simply get the data, update, delete, and add. So let's do that. So here I've created a simple method, get employees, and we're getting the employees using the DB context. Then we are creating a list to populate the employees, adding one employee into that from the list and simply returning it. So this also, if we don't want this, we can simply return this list as well, employee info. So you can remove this off because both the objects are same at that level. Now we have to add an employee. So here we have created a very simple method, and in this simple method what we are doing, add new employee, we are receiving the employee info, and then we are checking whether that employee already exists or not. If that employee doesn't exist, then we are simply adding data dot company equal to company, data dot years of experience equal to info dot experience. So we are updating this data object from the info object and simply calling this add instead of update. And then we are doing a save change. So here we are setting the response as true and the message as success. So it's this simple add new employee, then we have the get employee. Now on the similar terms we can have update employee, and instead of add we can simply have update. You can have this inside this, and if the here we can add a message. If the employee is not there in the database to update, then we can simply say employee does not exist and send the response as false, status response as false. So this is also done. Now we can simply have a simple delete employer, delete employee with a int employee ID, and we can see here we can get the employee ID, employee based on that one single record employee info. If that is not null, then we don't need this line. We can simply remove that data. Same, very simple method. So here also we've added 4 methods now for our CRUD operations. So let's add these 4 methods inside our employee service. Let's add the definitions, date employee, then we have the delete employee. Now we are going to add the reference in this method reference inside this API. So let's do that. So we have this get employees. So for that we have to inject this employee service inside our constructor. So let's create the object. So here I have simply created this employee service. So let's add a reference to business logic. So here I have this business logic layer. Then let's add the simple other methods, get employees, delete employees. Then we are going to add a new method for add an update. So we have this add new employee. Then we'll create the update employee. So we have this update employee. Fine. So in the controller also our all the 4 methods we have created at the controller level, at the business logic level, and at the Blazor app level. Now we simply have to call this in our index.razor page in this emp service where response equal to emp service dot add new employee. And we are going to pass the employee object. If response not equal to null, then here we are going to add a simple alert box to display the alert message. So let's include that JavaScript. So here in this web root we are going to add a simple add new item and JavaScript file, and let's name it as script.js. So inside this we are going to add a simple function window.alert function and alert message, and we are going to include this script in the host.cshtml file header section. So let's add a head section over here. Fine. and on this index we are going to inject JS runtime. So outside this add employee, we are going to create a method which will display, take the message and display. So let's change it to JS runtime. Fine. So here we'll have this await, alert, employee added successfully. So here we simply have this and we'll simply call this alert box. Now let's run and see what are the port numbers, so that port numbers can be added in the employee setting. Okay, let's set the startup project. In this Blazor app 1 will be the start project, API will be the start project. So we are starting the user interface and the API. So let's add that. So we have got an error. So this JavaScript runtime here is giving some error, IJS. So here R will be capital. This should work now. Okay, so here it's giving an error, emp service. So let's add a few settings in this program.cs file. So to get solve this error, we'll have to add this HTTP client service and mention the base address. So this we have added. So here we have added the singleton as well as the HTTP client. So this is actually the API URL which we are going to call from the Blazor server. So let's add that and let's see how it goes. So the API is running and we have this form. So we have this uh, three text box we have got. It's not showing properly. The port number is 5191. So the API port is 5191. So let's add that port properly. We have it here. And on this index, we can add few div class container. Let's move this entire edit form inside this. Let's run it now. Let's remove this BG light. It's not showing properly, so we'll have to do some changes here. Okay, let it be. Let's add the name. Let's add one more table row above this. Name, company, years of experience, and other one, let's keep it empty. So we have added two table rows now. I think some CSS issue. So here on this edit form, we have removed the div which we have added extra, and we have changed the table style to table, table stripped, and table bordered. And here on this button, we have simply removed the CSS, and it's a simple button. Now let's see how it looks. So here we have this name, company, and years of experience. So let's, before running this, there's one more change which we need to do. In this Blazor demo API, the programmed CS, we have to add the DB context. So, and also we have to get the connection string. So let's add the settings here. So just below this add controllers, we are going to add this add DB context, employee DB context, and use SQL Server. And we are going to get using this options.use SQL Server, we are going to get this DB connection. And also we are going to inject in the scoped variable, we are going to add the employee service. Now let's close all the tabs and run. Fine, now let's add the name. Nothing is happening here. No error. Okay, we have got an error. So we got here, the error says sequence contains no element. So let's put a breakpoint. Okay, here we have added first. That's the problem. We can have first or default. So for all the methods, we are adding this first or default at our service level. Update employee, add employee. Fine. Let's run it now. Okay, so we have got the message employee added successfully. Now let's check the database whether it is added or not. Okay, it's not added. Okay, we'll have to add it here because we have added not equal to null. So if it is null, then we are going to add it. If it is null, then we are going to simply pass it here. We don't need this one. We're going to simply add it because whatever object we are receiving, we are simply going to save the same object. We are simply checking whether it exists or not. So let's run it again. So we got the message. Let's see. So we have the data also. Now let's add a grid to display the data. So we'll go on index.razor page and simply add the table to display the data. So here we have simply created a table below this edit form, and I have the ID, name, company, years of experience, update and delete. And same goes in the table row. We are looping through the employee list. We are going to create that employee list, and we have the ID, name, company, years of experience. We are going to add two buttons, one for update and one for delete. Delete click. So it will be ID. So for delete the emp ID we are passing, and for update we are simply passing the entire update. So let's create a method to get the employees. So here we have created an employee list, and we have we have a method get employees. So this get employees method will get the employees and store in the employee list. Now this get employee need to be called on the page load. So let's and also once the employee is added, then also we have to call this get employee. So simply we can add it in the add new employee as well. Oh wait, get employees. And here let's add the onload on init method in the index.razor page. So on initialized on the page we have to call the get employees. Now let's run it. So before running it we have to simply add two more methods, update click and delete click. So let's add that. Update click, the input parameter will be employer. And we are simply going to pass the employee for update employee. And we are going to get the response is not equal to null. Then we can say employee updated successfully. Same method will create for delete employee. The input parameter will be employee ID, and it will be delete employee, passing the employee ID, and it will be delete click. And after delete, we are again getting the employee deleted successfully. So here we have four methods now: update click, delete click, add new employee, and get employees. So this completes our CRUD operations. Now let's run it and see how it works. Okay, so here you can see like this is a simple TD. Now let's add one more thing. Okay, so it's not displaying it again. Let's see the database. It's having it. Let's go and see. After adding an employee, we are getting the employees again. Okay, so here we'll have to add this dot. State has changed. Same goes for here also, and same for delete. Now what we saw here is like this data is only for display purpose, so we'll have to add the text box to make it enable for editing. So let's do that. So here we are doing this input bind emp.name, and same we have to do for the other two. So here company and years of experience. So we have introduced three text box which will display the text in a text format, and we can simply edit it. So let's run it again. Okay, now let's make it 8 update. Employee updated successfully. And let's go on the counter page and come back here. Okay, so we can see here. Let's update it. Okay, so here we forgot to change the text of this. Let's add one more. So we have it here. Now let's change the text of this button to delete. And let's run it. Let's click on delete. So it got deleted successfully. So these are simple CRUD operations. So we have covered like how we can add an employee, we can delete an employee and update an employee. So this looks fine. Now here you see like we have created these different 4 layers like app, Blazor app, logic, API, and the models. So in our next video, we are going to see how we can simply, without using the API, all these layers, simply combine everything into this Blazor app. And here in the Blazor app itself, how we can do the entire CRUD operations. So that's it for this video. See you in the next video. Hope you like the video. If you have any doubt, you can simply let us know in our comment box. Thanks for watching.